Hi everyone, I'm Matt Cremona.
And I'm Matthew Morris.
And welcome to the Matt and Matthew Show. Again this week we're here with Joseph from JWT Woodworks and we're going to take a little tour of his shop. So Joseph, why don't you tell us where you're at right now and kind of show us around.
Hi guys, I'm at my bench. So this is where all the work happens. All the machining will be done in the machine part of the room, and then everything ends up over here for all the real work, all the detail stuff. So this is my bench, my tool cabinet, and my planes on the wall, and my chisels, tool cabinet. All my planes over here, but these are kind of more of the miscellaneous router planes and marking tools, and some of my wooden planes I've made, some of my miniature tools, my wedding ring.
That's where mine is too.
Can't get that. Yep. Safest place I know.
The planes that you make versus, do you have a lot of fun making the planes yourself? Do you think that they're better than the ones you buy, or it's just a different feeling?
Yeah, it's a different feeling. Before I had this shop, I was in my shop wasn't really climate controlled, so they really wouldn't behave very well, because it's pretty humid in South Carolina. Once I've been in this shop, I've really been able to enjoy them a little bit more, and I've made several since I've been here. I'm actually in the process of making two right now, but this is the last one I made. So rosewood smoother. I love them. It's funny though, they're kind of I'll use them for a while and they'll work great, and then I'll kind of go back to my metal planes, whether they're smoother or not. I think they all have a purpose. I like the burnishing effect that the wood on wood gives you. But my number 4 and 4.5 are pretty indispensable too. So I wouldn't trade them. I like to have both though.
Now off camera, we were talking about your planes, and so are you a Lee Nielsen man? Are you a Veritas man? Or a little bit of both? And then you were also saying that you've been buying, I guess I'll answer the question a little bit. You were saying you've been buying Lee Nielsen almost since the beginning, right?
Yeah, I guess if I like Lee Nielsen tools, and I like Lee Valley, Veritas. I would say, judging by my planes, I would be a Lee Nielsen man as far as the planes go. I'm not sure why. I think that's kind of just where the first ones that I bought were, and then I've added on. I like the Veritas planes, but I don't own any. I have their miniature tools, so I guess that's not a great endorsement. But I tell you, when I did go to school at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship, Lee Nielsen was about 5 minutes down the road. So I got to try them out firsthand, and I think that probably had a lot to do with it. Plus, they're great tools.
Do you have a favorite plane?
Like I said, my number 4 bronze and my 4.5 are probably my favorite smoothers. That being said, though, my low angle jack is probably my most used plane. I've worn out at least a full blade, just completely where it won't advance anymore. I've gone through it.
Wow.
I do sharpen a lot though. But as from my shooting board to just even just joining edges or to smoothing, it's a workhorse. I love it. and the smoothers get used for smoothing. So so I think I get a little bit more use out of that low angle jack. That's probably why it got used up a little bit more. Plus, I did have a big countertop job that out of Chechen with Caribbean rosewood. It's just dull. It was murder on the edges. So that I think that probably took up half my blade, just that one job. But yeah, I used it for anything from shooting all the edges and all the miter folds to I did a lot of the actual smoothing with it too, where the places where the high angle wasn't the best tool for the job. That really took care of most of it. And then I gotta mention my low angled bronze block plane. If I had one plane that gets the most use, it has to be that. Besides, if it so between my low angle block and my low angle jack and those two smoothers, those definitely get the most miles.
Awesome. Yeah, I have the Lee Valley low angle beveled up jack, and that thing it's phenomenal. It can do everything. It can flatten. It can smooth. You can set for a heavy cut and just attack something if you need to. And great plane all around.
Oh yeah, and that's the one I recommend. I tell my students, if they had to have one, that just to get you a bevel up, low angle, whether it's a Veritas or a Lee Valley, or they're not going to find a Stanley, and if they do, it's probably more expensive than those other two. So great planes, sir. Pretty much a must-have, in my opinion.
So, Joseph, that is what I would call an aircraft carrier. That's a jointer. So, why don't you tell us a little about your jointer? That's big. Yeah,
it's a real deal. This is a Newman. They call it a number 60. It's a 24-inch joiner. It was made.
Wow.
Yeah. You can see it doesn't have a blade guard, which it doesn't even have the attachment for it, which I've got one in the works that I think I got a pretty good idea how to make one that'll work for this. But it was made between 1939 and 1944. It has an original. It was a government issued on a naval base in Charleston. It has a counter on it that I guess used to log the hours. It doesn't work anymore, but this is everything I've ever wanted in a joiner. I didn't even know they existed this big. I had dreams of a 12 or a 16-inch Oliver or something. Was kind of my goal for one. And I've been looking for one for about 10 years, and I'd told everybody that I thought could possibly ever come across a big joiner to be looking out. And finally last year I had a guy call, and this was available, and I got it for what I consider to be a steal, or whether it is or not. It was a good price, and What's that?
As long as you're happy with the price.
Oh, they were happy. I was happy. I think they pretty much bought it for a single job and were done with it. They couldn't move it. I don't know what it ended up weighing. I don't know, 3,000 plus at least pounds. The footprint. The footprint's actually 4x8. With the motor. It's a direct drive motor that sticks out. Yeah, but it's a 4x8 footprint, and we got it to the garage door with a forklift, and that it wouldn't come in, so we did it Egyptian style and rolled it with some logs in here. So it got in the door, and that's about as far as it got. And that seemed like it was gonna that was gonna be its new home.
That's it. It'll never move again.
Oh no, it really is a beautiful thing though. I wish I could show you the casting underneath the table is a work of art in itself. I mean, it's they don't make them like this. That's an understatement. It's funny. A friend of mine went with me to move it, and he went to go grab the fence by itself, and I think the fence weighed more than my whole other joiner. So it's pretty incredible. I do have it on 3-phase, and I have an electric brake on it, which if it just cut off by itself, it takes over a minute to turn all the way down. And so I didn't like that. I know Katie didn't want me on it much, or every time I turn it on, I think she'd hold her breath. It's pretty magnificent though while it's running, and I might turn it on for you guys just to listen to the wind blow off of it. Is pretty incredible. But the electric brake will cut it off, and I think I got it set to, I don't know, 6 seconds, which ain't gonna do my fingers much good in 6 seconds, but at least it's not spinning while I'm cut it off and walking away. It cuts off pretty quickly, and I don't think I'm ever going to need another one. So,
if you ever want to trade, Joseph, I got a 12-inch hammer combo machine here. It may not weigh as much, but if you're interested,
it's pretty tempting. It's pretty tempting. I think what sold it on me is being able to join my entire countertop on it. And that was a pretty good deal. I was like, man, that's going to save some time, because I pretty much my old process was my 8-inch joiner, and I would join and then hand plane and go back to my joiner and hand plane, which was fine, but it still wasn't getting me I still wasn't getting a square edge, and the fence would never go to square on it, and so this has just been a dream come true, because it not only is it effortless to flatten something, it is square, and it'll handle 24 full inches. Actually, yeah, 24 and an eighth, I think, is what it is. So
that's impressive. That's impressive.
You want to hear it run?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's turn her on.
All right. I don't know if you can hear that in my mic or not, but and now it's at full speed at 3,600 RPM, so. And it is putting out a wind, so, and then it's off. That's that. That's my favorite tool.
All right. Well, anything else you want to share about the jointer, or that little section of the shop?
That's it.
It's all the jointer.
Yeah, it's the joiner section.
Where are we now?
Where are we? Where are we? We are in the rest of the machine room where my table saw and my lathe is buried behind my old joiner. Got stuff on it. But this is where I do most of the table saw work, and along with my joiner, everything comes from my joiner we bypass the planer, which is kind of in between here and the joiner, and to table saw. I really don't use the table saw. Gets used mostly for cross cuts, and I do use I have a tenon jig that I use a good bit. Other than that, I really, I do most of my ripping on the bandsaw. because then I would take it to the bench and shoot the edges after that. You know, I'll rip on the table saw some, but I really don't rely on it much. Some of that is I don't get very good results from it, which I think is probably the biggest driver of that. You know, whether that's you know, the saw or what. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of table saw use for whatever reason. You know, it really comes down to I get better results from you know, ripping with a bandsaw and then going over to my bench for the hand plane. Again, I mentioned the tenoning jig on my table saw. I don't cut all my mortise and tenon, or I don't cut all my tenons with a handsaw. I am trying to make a living, so I try to blend my machine and my hand tools to the most efficient method, and I find that to be, for my tenons, probably the most efficient method for me. I do chop. I drill out, you know, as far as my mortises, I'll drill them out and then chop them with the chisel. I can do that, you know, efficiently and get a better result than, you know, I don't have a mortiser. So, you know, and there are times when I use a router for my mortises, but, you know, if we were talking general mortise and tenon, I would say my process would be table saw for the tenons. You know, I'll leave room to shoot my shoulders with the hand plane, but the bulk of it is done on the table saw, and then, you know, the mortise is drilled out and then chopped with chisels. And that's kind of my approach with a lot of my work is, you know, if I'm going to join and plane something down to thickness, I'm probably going to do that on the joiner and the planer, and kind of do my dress up work with the hand planes. I think it's great to know how to join and, you know, or to flatten all by hand. But I'm not going to do it every time. It takes me long. You know, whether this is just me or not, it takes me long enough to build a piece of furniture on it, you know, on its own. Then, you know, so I'm perfectly fine and don't have any shame in telling people I use my joiner and I plane down to, you know, slightly over my dimension, and then I take it to my hand plane to make it pretty. I just, you know, that works for me. I do rely, you know, I get better results, you know, obviously surface results from my hand plane, so I just leave it a little big and then, you know, address it that way. But as far as, you know, joining and flattening something completely to thickness by hand, I think that's great, but I don't do it.
Well, if that 24-inch joint are there, you don't need to flatten anything by hand.
Got me. You got me. Before that, before that, you know, I'd come up with a jig to run through my planer to whether I, you know, shim things up and run it through the planer to, you know, I would try to figure out however I could to get the job done in a way I felt, you know, gave me good results. That didn't give me as good a results as my 24-inch joiner. That's a whole new world now, where it comes out flat and I can kind of take it to my hand plane and dress it up. But before that, there was more work involved, and, you know, trying to use my 8-inch joiner and just, you know, the thing is, that taught me to really pay attention, to try to get everything as close as I could, and, you know, have my seams as, you know, as far as up and down, you know, as good as good as I could, because I knew there was going to be a lot more work. So I felt like taking the time to get it right was well worth it. And now I can still take the time to get it right, but then take it over to my 24-inch joiner and make sure it's right. But I only have a 20-inch planer, so it's funny. My joiner, my planer is actually what limits the size now. So I don't think that's a common problem. But yeah.
Yeah, that's no fair. I got 12 inches over here.
And that, like I said, when I was thinking I was thinking that was as big as they came. I'd heard of 16-inch joiners, and man, when I found that one, it was a dream come true for real. So
Unicorn.
it was a unicorn. Yeah, but so yeah, this is my table saw and some. I don't know if you can see. Can you see any lumber in that? Not really. A little bit of lumber. The entire walls of the shop, every wall has lumber racks on it besides my tool, where my hand tools are. Every other bit of wall space is lumber racks and clamp racks, and that pretty much takes up all the walls. But I have them all filled up. So.
Joseph, so where do you get your lumber from? I know Matt, he likes to actually go out in the woods, cut his own trees, bring them back in, cut them up, and then dry everything. Are you doing a process like that yourself, or are you going out and you purchasing lumber?
Some of both. Unfortunately, in South Carolina, the hardwoods don't grow. They grow too fast. You can find, good growing conditions, on kind of creek beds and little islands and rivers and things where they've had to grow straight up. And there are trees that have good lumber. It's just finding them. Whenever I can, I have a cherry and a walnut that I've had cut, and then I'm air drying. So whenever I can, I take advantage of that. I've found some enormous holly trees that I'm gonna do that as soon as the weather turns cool again. I've had some really good luck with getting cypress, but as far as hardwoods. Not the greatest growing conditions, so I take advantage when I can, but I usually go elsewhere to find my hardwoods. I've been fortunate enough to have some of Katie's family up in Pennsylvania, where I've got some cherry and walnut. But other than those, I happen to have a good friend of mine who went to boat school with me, who has a lumber company in Charleston, Carolina Lumber Sourcing. And he pretty much gets me everything I need. Focuses more on flooring and things like that now, but it's nice to have friends that where I can say, "Hey, Bill, I need a 200 feet of Wingay or whatever," and he can throw it on the back of a wholesale order, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to take advantage of that. So that's my lumber source, and really I've tried to just get the lumber when I could, and I have a pretty good selection. I guess there's always times where I don't, where I might need a few things, but I'm pretty set for the moment. So I try to keep things in, like some of that air dried stock. I try to keep in rotation where I've got stuff dry and there's stuff drying, but I don't go through a ton of wood, as far as actual, I'm not going through thousands of feet. So, like I said, most of the time I'm building, whether it's a dining room table or chairs don't take a whole lot of wood. So I'm in good shape with that, especially the miniatures.
Yeah, the miniatures don't take up much at all.
Not at all.
Since you don't like ripping on the table saw, and you rip on the bandsaw. Why don't we head over there and check out what must be a magical bandsaw since you're doing all your ripping on that.
Yeah, here's my bandsaw. I wouldn't, it's nothing mighty and nothing extraordinary, but it's a good bandsaw. It's an 18-inch jet. This is where I do my ripping and do a lot of my work on this bandsaw. I like them. They're, I guess everything can bite you, but I feel like that bandsaw is pretty safe. I'm not worrying about kickbacks, and if I had to have one, I'd pick a bandsaw over a table saw. That's just me. I think it does the job, and it handles most of all the curves and the ripping that I need to get done. So yeah, it's an 18-inch jet. Got my work light above it.
Since you do so much ripping on that bandsaw, Joseph, do you, like for me, I have a Laguna, and I have a 1-inch blade in there with carbide teeth on it. Are you using different blades to do your ripping versus you're cutting all your curve work, or?
Yeah, right now I have I want to say maybe it's a Resaw King. I'm not even sure, honestly. It's one that it's definitely a ripping blade. A Resaw blade. It won't cut a curve. You can try to cut a curve and it won't cut a curve. But yeah, I have I tend to use I think this is I don't want to say it's a 3/4 blade, and what I have in there now. I like to use, I usually keep a 1/2-inch blade in there just for general work, but if I'm resawing, this is the blade I have in there now, that it's typical, either a 1-inch or a 3/4. Then for curves, probably 3/8 to a 1/4-inch blade, depending on what I'm cutting. But yeah, so you were jealous of my joiner. I'm jealous of your bandsaw.
Well, it's nothing special. I only got 12-inch Laguna with, I don't know, is it 14 inches of resaw? Or a 14-inch Laguna.
All right, well, your 14-inch Laguna, I only have like 10 inches of resaw on this thing. And yeah, and I'm not sure I'd trying to resaw something 10 inches. It's they remodeled it about the year after I got it, and I think they upped the power. This one's pretty underpowered, I'll be honest. Oh man, shit, I don't even know. So it's 1.5 horses, which is pretty low. It was one of the first tools I bought. So I've had it going on about 12 years now. So it served its purpose for sure. It would be my next upgrade if I were looking to upgrade though. It might not be the first tool I buy, but if I were going to update one I already had, I think that would be the one, because it's a much used tool, so I could use a little bit more power, and a little more resaw would be really nice. But yeah, yeah. I don't know if you can you see the planer in the background?
Yeah.
You can. So that's my Powermatic 20. Straight knives. I don't have a helical head on it. That would be another upgrade. It would be nice. But like I said, I'm just dimensioning rough pretty much with the power tools, and then all my surfacing and smoothing is with the hand plane. So unless I'm getting really bad tear out, I'm not really concerned with the finish that comes off my power tools, because I'm dressing it all with the hand tools.
So Joseph, have we made it all the way around the shop now?
We have. except for we've left out Katie's room, but Katie's corner, but apparently it's off limits.
All right, well, that's fine. Thank you for showing us around the shop that you're allowed to show us around.
My pleasure.
So, Joseph, thank you again so much for showing us around your shop. We really appreciate it. If our viewers want to know where to find you, where can they find more information about you?
Instagram is at JWT Woodworks, and the website is jwtwoodworks.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Again, Joseph, thank you so much for letting us into your shop and taking us on a little tour. As always, guys, please subscribe to the channel and leave any comments or questions you have in the comments for this video. And until next time, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.